Welcome to the Partners Podcast. My name is Brendan Shu. I'm here with my team member, my partner, Rio, and we're here to talk to you just a little bit about what we're doing, what we're up to. So Rio, why did we decide to start a podcast?
Why did we decide to start a podcast? That's a good question. So I think the great thing about podcasting, right, is it really gives people like the time to talk about their story, where they've come from to where they are now, what they're currently working on, and everything like that. So that is like I think that's a really cool element of a podcast that you don't necessarily get in other kind of videos or short form kind of content. But at the same time as having that kind of longer piece of content of the actual podcast itself, you get the opportunity to make lots of short form content. You know, you look at all of these big, what you would maybe say like business gurus or like kind of business influencers out there like Alex Hormozi and everything like that. They, most of their content is just other people's content from podcasts that they've done with them, or talk shows, or presenting at an event or something like that. So yeah, I think that's why we saw the value in a podcast, because it really gives people the opportunity to tell their story, and then it gives us the option to make a bunch of short form content for them and for us, to kind of benefit us all. And you know, like we say, but always say, when it comes to our kind of content, it's just helping people tell that story.
Yeah, I think the storytelling aspect is something that excites me the most, because that's actually giving you a little bit more to bite on, like more substance to really consume and understand what are the step-by-step ways that they can get to that they have gotten, you know, to where they're at, and what you can potentially learn from that as well. So
yeah, definitely. I think one more thing I would add to that as well is that I think what makes a podcast kind of content unique is like what just happened now is that you can be having a conversation, you can build off what someone else said. When you have like kind of straight line content where you just like, hey, we just want to talk about this topic, you know, that's valuable, but it takes a lot of planning and stuff to you know, really talk about that one topic and to nail down exactly what you want to talk about. Whereas actually there's a lot of value of just sitting down and having a conversation with someone, and really getting to know them and talk off of the things that they're saying, because everything, they've got so much value to give, but you can't necessarily just learn it all in like an hour or 2 hours. So by doing a podcast, it gives a bit of time for them to kind of, you know, tell a bit more that you would normally be able to get in like a single piece of content.
Now, we've worked together on other forms of content, more like direct content with like, hey, start with this hook. And some people struggle with it, and it's a lot easier just to have a conversation one-to-one and have it feel very organic, and take the stress off of like having to perform for that specific video, but just have it be how you would normally talk to another individual about strategy, about tactics, about, you know, the plan, the action that you want to take towards accomplishing X, Y, and Z. I think the podcast is just a really strong format and a really accessible one that can also actually help you get business. We just had Eric from GG Homes in here. He's looking to create more content as well, and I think anyone who is at the top of their game is looking to give back by teaching other people what they've learned that have made them successful, in the hopes of recruiting a team, in the hopes of building a larger clientele. I think it's one of the best ways to build business. And with Eric, you know, after our 1 hour podcast, we were able to engage in more discussions around our business goals, and we're going to probably have 3 follow-up meetings about staffing virtual assistants, having Aerial Canvas do some of their listing solutions and marketing, maybe all of them. And in addition to that, other opportunities like SEO and digital marketing, things that he's working on that we're working on as well. I think there's just a lot more avenues to evolve a conversation into business when you do choose to start it with a value-giving conversation. When you do a podcast, it's not about you. It's about putting your guest in the spotlight, in the limelight, so they can talk about what's led them to their success and share their business goals in the hopes of attracting the right clients, the right team, and it's a massive win, and we're going to tie it together with short form content as well. What's our strategy there?
Yeah, so in terms of our strategy behind like the podcasting and breaking that content down, on a very manual level, is I'll sit behind the camera, or as Brendan is having an interview with someone, and I'll be listening very intently, knowing what kind of content that we produce and that works for people's audiences. I will literally sit there and write little timestamps of all the things that I think were good, which then gets sent to our editor. Our editor will then of course go through and see if there's any more nuggets that he can kind of pull out. But any given podcast can produce between, on average, 30-40 pieces of content from one podcast, which ours lasts between the 30-40 minute mark. So that's a lot of, like, every minute there is a piece of content or something that we can pull. And then there's stuff that like cross-populates across the whole podcast. There's like themes that go on and certain stuff like that as well. So the way in which we do it is by taking those timestamps, sending it to an editor, they break it down, and then cut it up in a very similar way to what I just described of like Alex Hormozy, having captions, emojis, sound design, just to really help engage the audience that you're trying to reach, and give them more value as well, and draw their attention to certain points that are like really valuable and really relevant, is always really, really cool as well. And even down to like the really sub level of like actually how you edit it. A lot of the time, we're always used to hearing someone explain something and then give you that one nugget piece of information. Whereas actually, if you take this nugget of information that's normally just a statement, a word, or something like that, and you place it at the start, and then you go into the main piece of content, maybe it's missing that one piece, which is like really like valuable to them. Maybe it's a statement and they miss out the one word that like they really need to know to understand the statement. If you miss that part out, and then you could like delve into the explanation part, which is maybe a little bit longer, and then they say the statement again at the end, it's a great way just to keep them engaged for the whole video, because they were just waiting to hear that one statement and they don't know where that statement is going to be. So they don't want to skip through because they might miss it, all of that kind of stuff. You'll see that in everybody's videos. If you just watch now, like Alex's content, for example, you'll see they put that piece of information first, explanation, and then they have that information again. Sometimes the information is in the middle or something like that, depending on how he's speaking and how he delivers the answer back to the podcast host. But that is the ultimate kind of way in which they timeline it out. So that's the same thing we do with our editors. But from an overview point, how would I say this? From like an overview perspective, I guess, is you just bring the person in, do the podcast, break down that content using like the backend systems that we've implemented. We can even plug you into those kind of things, like it's super plug and play, what we've created, which I'm super stoked about. And so we just plug you into that backend system, and then out pops all the great content that people that you bring on the podcast, whoever can use. And you can even have as like a product offering yourself as a marketing agency, right? Yeah, absolutely. And Rio, why did you pursue this avenue of marketing, of video creation? What's our arrangement? Like, what made you decide to take on this opportunity when you have so many others? Yeah, absolutely. So my background is not necessarily like kind of personal content, my background is more action sports and commercial style content, which I still definitely do on the side and have a lot of passion for. But what I'd reached a point in my career with is that, I'd freelanced for a long time and it was a lot of fun, but I wanted kind of business partnership with someone. And when I met Brendan, that was like exactly what Brendan was looking for. He was like, look, I'm looking for not another employee. I want someone that I can go into business with. And he, not necessarily someone that he, was at the same level as him and then wanted to build something even bigger, but someone he could just go into business with and had that passion and drive. And that was exactly me at the time when we kind of met, is I just have, and still do, like a real hunger to build something significant that, I feel is providing value to a huge community. And there's no bigger community than real estate, to be honest. So I think that's when we met, that kind of really ignited that spark for me. And then just working with Brendan, he's got an incredible resource, an incredible network. And so starting to delve into that and be part of that community has been amazing. And I think just naturally has made me even more hungry to kind of create this product that we can offer people and provide value for. So I think that's kind of why I took the direction. I think it's giving me so many challenges that are really good for me. You know, it's definitely hard on the day to day. Like I've never really managed people, and I'm managing like 2, 3, and the team is expanding more and more each day. So trying to manage people correctly and making sure we're reaching certain goals is really important. And then also just like guiding a vision of a product as well is like a challenge. But having Brendan as both a business partner on this product as well as a mentor and coach is just like so unique and really, really cool for me because it means that obviously I get to build something valuable, like I said, but have the support of someone like Brendan to do so. And you normally, what I found anyway, is normally have one or the other. You always normally have like all of the support, but don't know how to build the product.
Yeah.
Or you can build a product, but you don't know how to get coaching, and you get really stuck, or you're just making lots of costly mistakes, which cost your business and yourself, you know. So having those two is I feel really like the best of both worlds right now, and why I'm so passionate about what we're building and what we've done.
Yeah. It excites me as well to work with someone like Rio is because something that it's tough to come by is the entrepreneurial drive to problem solve, to be resourceful, to want to learn, and to be receptive of coaching or mentoring. That's hard to come by, and if I see a fire within Rio, and if I can fuel that fire, if I can add the embers to his tinder, then great. You know, he's going to be that much more successful. And his and I's relationship is a little bit dynamic because he's not my employee. I'm his client. He's my student. We're business partners, and in every business arrangement you're working with a partner to some degree. Mm-hmm. And someone that just treats it like a transaction might be considered a vendor. Someone who is just trading their time for money might be considered a consultant, or not a consultant, a contractor. Someone that might be a little bit, further along than where you're at might be a consultant or a coach. But between Rio and I, we're all and everything in between, to each other. We're learning from each other. We're growing with each other. We're experimenting and innovating with each other. And I think that's what the Partners Podcast is really about, is how do we bring more entrepreneurs, more business owners, more real estate industry leaders in the same space and talk about things that matter. The stories that fuel us and drive us, the strategies and the tactics that we're so excited to implement. And most importantly, how do we create a community with top real estate industry leaders and players that want to build something bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what excites me the most about working with Rio, is we're building partnerships.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go.